Hi Kindred Spirit, welcome to my channel, Cultivate Life, period. I'm Diane, a newbie storyteller, long-time spiritual mentor. These days I'm on the lookout for stories I'm meant to tell. Her stories mostly, because we're in another cycle of rebalancing. Again. Again and again, humans turn to histories for guidance. The legacies of the protective, all-knowing rule makers. Women's autonomy, basic human needs, the foundations of democracy. All of it feels uncertain, just as the rule makers intend. In moments like these, it seems easier to either shut down or go into battle mode. Two ends of the same spectrum. Shutting down is an option, especially when generation after generation has been taught to fear education. Follow the rule makers. They know what's best. They've already made the mistakes, so we don't have to. It's for our own good. And if I resist, then it's time for battle. Time to rain down the consequences. Not nature's consequences. Oh no, there's no time for that. The rule makers will decide what's justified. Then they'll suit up the uneducated for war, call them to defend the status quo. All humans were once children, generation upon generation spanked for our own good. The prevailing rule makers decree that hitting a child is the best way to teach them not to hit another child. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Don't let me see you do that again, we're taught. Better to suck it up, dumb down, get in line. Look at the back of the head in front of you and nothing else. Good human. Because we're serving a purpose, not necessarily our own. There is another way. Humans are vibrationally tuned to exist in physical form, to experience what it's like to be physical. Everything we see is a collective agreement about how reality in 3 dimensions functions. But there are infinite other ways. So what stops us from all our known history from deciding to live together differently? Maybe the word itself is a place to begin. His story. What if, instead of reacting the way past generations have been manipulated to react, we practiced listening deeper? Not just to the noise, to what life is actually asking us to be. And what if we followed that path, even when it scared us? To expand this perspective, let's contract it for a moment. Imagine waking up one morning to find that a job you love is suddenly gone. It's a shock, right? Now zoom out. Imagine waking up to find the world around you shifting in ways that feel just as shocking. Policies are changing, rights are being questioned. The stability you once relied on seems fragile. It's always been like that. It will always be like that. Contrast teaches us to discern the path that is best for us. And what makes a path best? It's the one that makes us feel purposeful, where we feel alive while walking it. I'm practicing my way out of approaching work and relationships like auditioning for a role. I used to operate by observing a company's values or a person's preferences, presenting myself in the best light, meaning one I thought they were looking for, and then adapting, often at the expense of my own truth. It was a survival mechanism. I was really good at it, until I realized I was barely surviving. The disconnection of shape-shifting had disconnected me from myself. From there, it was easy to start living someone else's vision instead of discovering the work that brings meaning to my days. Do you view a relationship loss or a job loss as a problem to solve? Find another friend, find another job, keep applying, don't fall behind for whatever you do. What if, instead of rushing to fit into someone else's vision, we ask, where do I actually want to belong? What if we deconstructed the word business into busyness? If everyone we meet is a potential employer, someone choosing whether or not they want us in their life, then the real question isn't just, can I get hired or can I have friendship, but do I want to be here? Do I want this relationship, this job, this way of living? What's your first instinct, Kindred Spirit? Panic? Resistance? Maybe you tune it out just to get through the day? What if, for just a moment, you paused and listened? What if we approached job loss or any big change differently? Instead of scrambling to fit in somewhere new, what if we listened for what was actually calling us? What kind of work, relationships, or creative expressions feel like collaboration rather than a performance? The shift requires deep listening, first to ourselves, then to the world around us. It's not about proving our worth, but about sensing where we are naturally valued. Rejection is protection. What a great gem of a saying. I didn't make it up though. It's been around for a while. I do want to give a shout out to the person that I heard it from though, Melanie Hamlett. Her information, her YouTube information I'll put below, and I encourage you to check out her channel, especially if patriarchy is something that you are expanding your perspective about. In other research for this story, I came across a Reddit thread where people shared their experiences of being laid off. Some felt lost. Others, unexpectedly, felt free. One person even said, looking back, I was grateful I was laid off. That struck me, because gratitude isn't the usual response to loss. And yet those who found a way forward didn't just react. They listened, not just to their fears, but to what was possible beyond them. And that's truth on a much bigger scale. Think about the last time you had a conversation about something politically charged. Were you truly listening, or were you bracing for impact? Were you open, or were you preparing your response? Deep listening doesn't mean agreeing. It means being present enough to hear what's underneath the words, the fears, the assumptions, the places where we are more alike than we realize. Aspire to speak from there. This is the practice of speaking from the soul. If you're in a place of transition, work, relationship, or identity, and if you're still watching, you are, I invite you to pause more often. Recognize when you're shape-shifting to meet expectations. And when you do, try listening deeper. Do I feel wanted? Does that wanting feel safe? Where does my presence feel like a collaboration rather than a transaction? Because that's where real purpose begins. These musings lead to the infinite possibilities open to all of us. If we collectively uplift the world via the loving end of the emotional intelligence spectrum, the balance can shift. faster or slower, it's always been a choice. Here's the invitation. Practice listening to yourself first, and then let that ripple out. What are you vibing? Notice when your body tenses in conversation. Notice when you feel the urge to interrupt or defend. What happens if you pause? If you allow space for a deeper truth to emerge? Is the ripple you want to send out filled with anger? If so, listen deeper. You may need time to respond in the way you're wanting to be right now. If you want to try again, you'll know you're ready when your attachment to being right has softened. If we want love, we must vibe love to the best of our ability. That's the practice, and that's enough. Because the ones who navigate upheaval with confidence aren't necessarily the loudest. They're the ones who can hear what's actually happening beneath the noise. And with that, Kindred Spirit, I'm complete. For now. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Please check your subscription, and if you're new here, absolutely subscribe. And everybody, hit that like button and the notification bell so that you know when I upload new content. Until we meet again, may you trust your own rhythm, and may you recognize the doors that open without force. See you down the path.